The splash hit her like a punch, cold and thick, splattering mud and dirty street water all over the crisp white silk of her new dress. Praise froze, the laughter dying in her throat, her heart doing a frantic, tiny tap dance against her ribs. She didn't have to look up. That roaring engine, the expensive smell of the exhaust fumes, the way the driver sped off without even slowing down. She knew that car. She knew that man. Her ex-husband, Promise. He'd done it on purpose, a final, nasty reminder that he was still big and she was small, that he was the billionaire zooming past and she was just the woman walking the sidewalk. A sharp, burning shame heated her cheeks. He had no idea, absolutely none, that the simple gold band now hidden under the cuff of her coat was less than 4 hours old, or that the man waiting for her inside the building wasn't just a man, but the Prime Minister's youngest, most cherished son. Promise just signed his own receipt, and this time the price was going to be everything. Stay to the very end to see how the price was paid. Endeavor to like this video, sit tight, and listen to this powerful story. The mud felt heavy on Praise's skin, not just because it was water and dirt, but because it carried the weight of 4 years of feeling small. It was a cold, ugly stain right over her heart, a mess that was impossible to hide. She stood there, right outside the grand, shiny doors of the Capitol Heights building, feeling every single eye on her. Her beautiful wedding dress, the one she'd picked out just this morning, was ruined. The white was now patchy brown, and the silk clung to her leg in a sloppy, cold way. A sudden, sharp memory cut through the moment, like a shard of glass. It was the last big fight she'd had with Promise before they split. He was yelling. Not screaming, but that quiet, hard-edge yelling that made the whole room shake, without him even raising his voice. "Praise," he'd said, his eyes like chipped ice, "you are nothing without me. You'll always be waiting on the sidewalk while I drive past." And now, here he was, proving his point, not with words, but with a tidal wave of street filth. It felt like he'd reached out from his fancy car and slapped her across the face. She took a shaky breath, trying to push the tears back into her chest. She couldn't cry. Not here. Not today. This was her new beginning, her golden door swinging open, and she wouldn't let his dirt stick to her future. The doors to the building slid open, and a man in a crisp uniform rushed out, his face twisted in concern. "Madam, are you all right? What happened?" Praise quickly wiped a stray tear with the back of her clean hand. "I'm fine," she whispered, but her voice cracked. "Just, a car didn't see me." A lie, a big, fat, necessary lie. She couldn't tell this stranger that the man who hit her was the same one who'd built half the skyscrapers in this city, the man whose face was on magazine covers. "Here, madam, let me help you inside," the man said, guiding her gently toward a hidden service entrance. Inside the quiet, marble-floored corridor, she finally pulled out her phone. Her fingers trembled so badly she almost dropped it. She needed to call Sylvia. Sylvia was her rock, her best friend, the only person who knew the whole secret truth about this afternoon. On the third ring, Sylvia answered, her voice sounding frantic. "Praise? Girl, where are you? Lucas is asking for you. The private reception started 10 minutes ago. Are you okay? You sound like you're outside." Praise leaned her head against the cool marble wall, the silence of the hidden hallway a welcome blanket. "Sylvia, something awful happened." She explained it all in a rush, the black Bentley, the speed, the terrible, sickening splash. A long, slow silence stretched between them. When Sylvia finally spoke, her voice was low and dangerous, like a storm brewing far away. "Promise, he did this? On the same day? The nerve of that animal!" "He didn't know, Sylvia. He couldn't have known I was getting married today. It was a quick, private ceremony, just us and the judge. He just saw an ex-wife walking and decided to be cruel." Praise's voice shook. "But now I can't go to the reception. My dress is
It's disgusting. It looks like I wrestled a pig." "Stop it! Don't talk like that," Sylvia snapped, her voice firm and loving. "Praise, listen to me. Lucas is the Prime Minister's son. This is a huge, quiet deal. His family is expecting you to walk in there, smiling, looking like the woman who just married their golden boy. You can't stand him up, not over mud." The truth of Sylvia's words hit Praise hard. It wasn't just about a dress, it was about respect. It was about proving to the whole world, and especially to Promise, that she was no longer the bruised, timid woman he had married and tossed aside. She was now the wife of a powerful man. "What do I do, Sylvia? I look like a wet mop. There's no time to go home." Praise was close to tears again. "Okay, think, Praise. Is there a cloakroom, a small bathroom, anywhere you can wipe off the worst of it? Just the legs. We can cover the rest. I'll stall Lucas. I'll tell him you spilled a drink or something. Just get in here, now. Don't let Promise win this tiny battle." The challenge in Sylvia's voice was the push Praise needed. Don't let Promise win. That became her mantra. She straightened up, feeling a fresh wave of determination. She found a small utility closet and a roll of rough paper towels. The next 10 minutes were a whirlwind of awkward scrubbing and dabbing. The silk was too fine. The mud had sunk in deep. She managed to scrape off the thickest clumps, but the brown watermark was permanent, like a bruise. She looked in the tiny, grimy mirror. The dress was a wreck, but her face, her eyes, they were still bright with a fierce kind of anger and resolve. She fixed her hair, put on a determined smile, and walked out of the closet. She emerged into the main lobby, taking a deep breath, and started walking toward the private elevator that led to the reception hall. Each step was a painful reminder of Promise's callousness. When the elevator doors opened, the room was bathed in soft, golden light. It was packed with serious-looking men in suits and elegant women in colorful gowns. And standing right in the center, his back to her, was Lucas, tall, regal, and the picture of calm power. Then she saw him, Promise. He was standing near the large window, holding a glass of amber liquor, laughing easily with another powerful businessman, the man Lucas's father had been trying to win over for months. He hadn't been invited, of course. His presence here was sheer arrogance, an assertion of his undisputed place at the top of the city's food chain. Praise's heart dropped down to her muddy shoes. He's here. He didn't just splash me. He came to the very building I was heading to. The suspense tightened like a knot in her stomach. Did he know? Was this all part of a deeper, crueler game? Was he waiting for me to walk in, looking like a disaster, so he could laugh in my face one more time? She took a shaky breath, trying to push the tears back into her chest. She couldn't cry. Not here. Not today. This was her new beginning, her golden door swinging open, and she wouldn't let his dirt stick to her future. She pulled her shoulders back, took one last breath, and began to walk. Every eye in the room would be on her now, not just because she was the new bride, but because of the dirty secret she was wearing. Lucas still hadn't seen her. Promise still hadn't noticed her. The countdown had begun.
Praise took a step forward, then another. The private reception hall suddenly felt vast, like walking across an empty stage under 1,000 spotlights. The air was thick with the scent of expensive perfume and quiet power. As she moved, the damp, muddy silk of her dress made a faint, disturbing sloshing sound, a secret humiliation only she could hear over the murmurs of the guests. She kept her eyes locked on Lucas's back. She needed to reach him, to tell him before anyone else had a chance to point out the disaster she was wearing. But as she got closer, she saw Sylvia standing by the appetizer table, her face a mask of controlled panic. Sylvia gave her a tiny, frantic shake of the head and mouthed, "Wait." Praise froze again. Why wait? Every second she stood there, the mud on her dress was hardening, becoming more obvious. Then she understood. Sylvia was looking past her, toward Promise. He was deep in conversation, but his eyes were darting around the room, the way they always did when he was seeking out something to dominate. Suddenly, the businessman Promise was talking to excused himself, patting Promise on the shoulder before moving away. Promise was left alone, right by the window. He took a long, arrogant sip of his drink and finally, slowly turned his head. His eyes scanned the room, dismissively at first. They flickered over the elegantly dressed women, the uniformed waiters, and the sparkling chandeliers. Then his gaze landed on Praise. It was a cold, hard recognition, a flash of surprise, quickly masked by his usual look of superior boredom. His lips curled into the faintest, cruelest smirk she had ever seen. He didn't need to ask how her dress got dirty. He knew. His eyes traveled from her furious face down to the mud-splashed silk, and his smirk widened, a silent, triumphant laugh echoing across the room just for her. "I told you you were small," that look said. "I told you I could ruin your day, even when I'm not trying." Praise felt a hot wave of rage surge through her, so intense it almost made her dizzy. He hadn't just ruined her dress, he was using the dirt as a symbol of his lingering control over her life. Just as Promise lifted his glass in a mock toast of victory toward her, Lucas turned around. The entire energy of the room shifted. Lucas was not just a politician's son, he carried himself with the quiet, inherent authority of someone who had been groomed for greatness since birth. He looked across the room, and his expression softened instantly when he saw Praise. Relief flooded his handsome face. He started walking toward her, his movements smooth and purposeful. But as he approached, his eyes finally registered the state of her dress. Lucas stopped dead. His perfect, loving smile evaporated. His gaze, usually so warm and deep, turned to ice as he took in the prominent, sickening brown stains marring the white silk. The room, which had been buzzing, went absolutely silent. Everyone was watching. Promise, sensing the shift, lowered his glass and tracked Lucas's line of sight, finally realizing who Lucas was looking at. The tension became almost unbearable. Promise still didn't connect the dots. He just saw his timid, defeated ex-wife standing across from the powerful prime minister's son, looking like a disaster. He probably assumed she was a gatecrasher or a catering assistant who'd had a terrible accident. His expression was a mixture of pity and contempt. Lucas reached Praise. He didn't touch her. He just stood there, his tall frame blocking her from the worst of gossipers. His voice was low, so low that only she could hear it, but every syllable was sharp. "Praise," his voice searching hers, looking for an explanation. What happened?" Praise's breath hitched. She looked into his deeply concerned eyes, then past his shoulder to Promise, who was still watching the scene with that awful expectant sneer. She had to tell the truth, but she couldn't say, "Your rival Promise just humiliated me." She chose her words carefully, letting the emotional truth speak for itself. "Lucas," she started, her voice shaking slightly, but holding firm. "Lucas, I was walking here, right outside. A car, a very fast, very expensive car sped past me on the curb. They didn't slow down. They hit the curb and splashed the whole street onto me." Lucas's gaze hardened. He was smart. He understood the implied cruelty in the action. "You were walking? Why didn't you call for the driver, my dear? I sent the security team to meet you." I needed the walk," she lied, swallowing hard. She couldn't tell him she wanted one last moment of simple freedom before joining his complicated, powerful world. Lucas gently took her hand. He didn't look disgusted by the mud. He looked wounded, as if the injury was his own. "My love, this is terrible. You can't stand here like this." Just then, Promise decided to make his move. He sauntered toward the pair, carrying the weight of his fortune in every casual step. He was going to rescue Lucas from this embarrassing spectacle. "Lucas, my man," Promise boomed, forcing a loud, fake laugh that drew every eye.
He clapped Lucas on the shoulder, ignoring Praise completely. "What a sight! Terrible accident, huh? Looks like someone had a rough morning. Best send her to the kitchens, wouldn't you agree? Get her cleaned up before the press sees." He paused, then finally deigned to look at Praise, his eyes twinkling with cold amusement. "Tis, Praise. Still causing a mess, I see." He said her name with a false tenderness that sounded like a curse. Lucas went completely still. His hand tightened around Praise's, a signal of immense, barely contained fury. He didn't like to be touched, especially not by casual acquaintances, and he absolutely did not like the condescending way Promise spoke about his wife. "Promise," Lucas said, his voice dropping to a dangerous, icy baritone that stopped every conversation in the room. Promise, basking in his own power, just chuckled. "Don't worry about it, buddy. Happens all the time in this city. Poor woman probably just had a bad taxi driver. Just don't let her ruin your night." He leaned in, trying to be conspiratorial. "She used to be—" Before Promise could finish his sentence, before he could reveal their history, before he could call her his ex-wife, Lucas cut him off. He didn't shout, he didn't threaten, he just delivered a quiet, devastating statement that changed the temperature of the entire hall. He looked directly at Promise, his eyes blazing with an unprecedented protective fire. Then he raised Praise's left hand, turning it so the simple, heavy gold band on her finger caught the light. He spoke loud enough for every single person in the room to hear. "Promise," Lucas repeated, his voice smooth as silk but harder than steel. "You are mistaken. This is not just some woman. This is Praise, and as of 4 hours ago, she is officially my wife, the daughter-in-law of the Prime Minister. And I assure you, whoever caused this mess just made the biggest mistake of their life." A collective gasp swept through the room, quickly followed by a horrified silence. Promise's face went white, the laughter vanished, the cocky superiority drained away, leaving a look of naked, chilling terror. He staggered back a half step, staring at the ring, then at the mud, then back at Praise's face. He knew that black Bentley was his. He knew he was the one who drove it. He knew he had done this. He had not just splashed mud on an ex-wife. He had assaulted the Prime Minister's new wife with his car, in an act of malicious, petty revenge, right before the entire political elite. The billionaire had suddenly become the smallest, most terrified person in the room.
The silence in the grand reception hall was so heavy you could hear the soft clink of the ice melting in Promise's abandoned glass. He stood there, frozen, looking like a statue that had just realized it was standing on the edge of a cliff. The color hadn't returned to his face. All the money, all the power, all the arrogance he carried, it all dissolved in that one terrible, sickening realization. He hadn't just made a mistake. He had committed an act of public violence against one of the most protected people in the country. Praise watched him, and an incredible, sweet wave of relief washed over her, replacing the cold shame of the mud. For 4 years, Promise had made her feel like a shadow. Now she was sunlight, and he was melting. Lucas, sensing his victory, did not let up. He kept his hand firmly clasped around Praise's. He spoke, still quiet, but his voice now carried the weight of the entire government's authority. "Praise, tell me the make and model of the car," Lucas instructed, not looking away from Promise. "Did you recognize the plates?" Praise didn't need to lie now. She didn't need to protect him. She looked right into Promise's horrified eyes. "Lucas," she said, her voice clear and steady. It was a black Bentley, the newest model, the one with the tinted windows. She paused, letting the name hang in the air. "I didn't need to see the place. It was Promise. He was driving. He saw me and he sped up, right into the puddle." A sharp collective gasp came from the surrounding guests. People started whispering, their excited, shocked voices filling the space Promise had always dominated. Promise finally found his voice, a strangled, desperate croak. "No, Praise, that's not true. I wasn't even near this building today. My driver. It must have been the driver. She's lying, Lucas. She's trying to hurt me because I left her." Lucas smiled, but it wasn't a kind smile. It was the smile of a predator.
You left her, Promise? That's interesting. Did you leave her before or after she started dating me? And you say you weren't near here? Your car, Mr. Promise, is currently sitting in the underground parking of this very building, a privilege I arranged for you, thinking you were just a business associate. I wonder if your driver knows he is about to take the fall for a felony assault. Promise's mouth opened and closed silently. He knew Lucas was bluffing about the felony, but the truth of the situation, the catastrophic loss of face and favor, was much worse. He had just admitted to a room of powerful people that he was a spiteful ex-husband who abused his privilege. Just then, a handsome woman with kind but serious eyes walked up. This was Sylvia. She put a loving arm around Praise's shoulder. "Promise," Sylvia said calmly, looking at the mud on the dress. "I was on the phone with Praise when it happened. I heard the car engine, the speed, and the splash. I also know that black Bentley well. The timing of the call matches the CCTV footage on this street perfectly. I was going to keep silent, but you just lied to my face, and more importantly, you lied to Lucas." It was over. Lucas looked at Promise one last time, his voice now flat and final. "I think you should leave, Promise, and I think tomorrow you will be receiving a call from my father's office regarding certain building permits and a few old business contracts. Please send my regards to your driver, whoever he may be." Promise didn't argue. He didn't fight. He just turned around, walking past the staring, silent crowd of people who no longer saw the untouchable billionaire, but a small, petty, defeated man. Praise watched him go, then turned to Lucas. The mud was still on her dress, but it didn't feel cold anymore. It felt like battle scars. "Thank you, Lucas," she whispered, tears finally welling up, but they were tears of triumph. Lucas leaned down and kissed her gently on the forehead, right above the faint line of dirt that had reached her hairline. "My beautiful wife," he said, his voice now filled with warmth. "You deserve better than that filth, but I need you to understand something very important." He stepped back, making sure the room could still hear. "That mud on your dress will be washed away, but the lesson Promise learned today, that he can never touch what is mine, that will be permanent. Now, let's go change your dress. The real party is waiting." Praise smiled, a real radiant smile this time. The man who had tried to break her had just accidentally propelled her onto the highest stage in the country. The billionaire ex-husband's petty cruelty had not ruined her marriage. It had instantly bonded her to the prime minister's son with an ironclad layer of dramatic, public devotion. It was the most unexpected outcome, a splash of mud that solidified a kingdom. Thanks for watching. Comment where you were watching from and lesson learned. Bye for now.